So this video has the potential to cause some controversy because I'm bound to say something that someone's not going to like it. But this has been bugging me for a while, and I've actually been wondering this for a while, and I thought, you know what? Sod it, I've had enough. I don't care if people like it or not. I'm going to give me views on it. And that is, do you think that the Nintendo Switch has the potential to eventually become one of the greatest retro consoles of all time? And the reason I say this is because the Nintendo Switch is a pretty important console already, right now as we speak, especially in the retro gaming scene. And let me just explain to you why that probably is. So Nintendo, a long while ago, they basically dropped out of the race with the top end competitors, you know, in this case, PlayStation, Xbox, because no matter what they did, they couldn't compete with them in a technological way. You know, their games were never going to be as good looking as theirs. Their consoles were never going to be at that standard again. You know, they'd released several flops that hadn't worked, and they'd lost money. So they had to start looking at it from a different point of view. What can we do different? You know, and that was when we saw the likes of the Nintendo Wii, which arguably, again, has the potential to be one of the greatest retro consoles of all time, you know. But they took a wrong turn somewhere, and that was when they did the Wii U. But was it a complete failure? Some say it wasn't, and I have to agree. There are certain things that they used on the Wii U that transferred over to the Switch, and I would argue only made the Switch better for that. Let's not forget, you know, and we are on about the main console. We're not talking about the Lite. We're talking about the main console. Let's not forget, this is, I'm pretty certain, the first console to ever be able to be used as a handheld and a home base unit. And then, of course, there's also different variations of how you can use it. You know, when you got it as handheld, you can have the Joy-Cons on the side of the screen, or you can put the screen on its little stand and use the Joy-Con separate. And then let's not forget, you've got the side of the Wii that transferred over onto the Switch, which of course is, you know, the sensor where it picks up your movements. That's still there too. The handheld side of it kind of comes from the Wii U. I would also argue like the little Joy-Cons, so they look very similar to the Wii U. You know, there's a lot of things that transferred over from both of those consoles. And so at a degree, you basically got a Wii that was a great console that loads of people bought. Let's be honest, let's not forget, it was cheaper. Kids loved them. And I'd also argue that their grandparents did, because my boys and their grandparents used to play this a lot. You know, they'd be doing bowling and boxing and all sorts. It's a good thing, like a multi-generational console for all generations. And as a result, because these things have all gone over to the Switch, I would say that the Switch now is as well. I mean, let's be honest, the Switch isn't massively complicated. Most people can get to grips with that, the same way they did as the Wii. So again, I think the Switch is multi-generational, you know. So other than the things I've already addressed, there's also the games, right? Now, one thing that the Switch does different is they have a lot of like indie style games, a lot of what I like to call retro style games, you know, where they've got their retro pixelated graphics. You know, where you've got Slain, Valfaris, a couple of my favourites, by the way. And then you've got your Turtles, Revenge of Shredder, and various other games. And then you've got the beat 'em up, Final Vendetta, which is pretty much like almost a clone of Final Fight, you know. And these are things that the Switch does very well. Now, I should point out some of these games did come out on other systems, but I would argue there's more of these sort of games on the Switch, and this is what the Switch does best. I'll be honest, we go away on holiday when we can, and every time we go, we always take the Switch. And why is that? Well, because everybody enjoys playing it. It's easy to set up. It's literally, let's be honest, made to travel. And it's got a fantastic library of games that everybody enjoys. Of course, the other thing I'm going to point out here is their cartridges and the cases are smaller. They take up less room. If you leave the cases behind, even less room. You could fit pretty much a good portion of your collection in a tiny little wallet. Of course, that's the other thing. Cartridges, you're not going to worry about them getting damaged in transit. They're not discs. They're not going to get scratched. And also, they will last longer. No disc rot happening now. So there's a lot of things about the Switch that well, really were ahead of their time when it came out. And I'll be honest, I had my doubts when it first came out. I remember somebody I worked with picked one up before I did, and I remember saying to him, mate, that'll never catch them. That'll break in 2 seconds. Well, I've had one a while, mine ain't broke yet. So, and if you notice, like I said, I've had mine a while, so I eventually did buy one. It was undeniable how good the games library was that was coming out on this system. And one of the things I also like about it of late, which I think is putting it into even more of a chance of becoming a retro or good retro console, is the fact that the games are now starting to come down. And, you know, in the past, Nintendo, their games have been known to hold their price and in most cases actually go up rather than down. But at the moment, we are starting to see games coming down a bit, especially with the indie titles. You know, it's a lot easier to find and buy these games, and I thoroughly enjoy and I love playing these games. Very enjoyable. You know, they did a follow-on to one of my favourite Amiga games, Beneath the Steel Sky, and that's such a good game. And recently I've talked about Raiden 4. What a shooter, such a good game. You know, and that's the other thing, see, you know, you're getting a lot of these Japanese titles, and then there's the fact that it's multi-region as well. So there's so many things about this console that makes it good, you know, and I can't help but keep thinking to myself, you know, this console's special, and I think history will remember it that way. Now, the reason why I said at the beginning of this video that this is a bit of a controversial topic is because I mentioned this before on social media, just in a throwaway comment, and people really didn't like what I had to say at the time. However, what I would say, that was a long time ago, you know, that was before we knew so much of what we know now, you know. So as a result, I think people's views might have changed. You know, can't help but think here, you know, sometimes you play these consoles and you don't realise until later on how good they were, you know. And it's only later on that you look back and you go, that was a great console. You know, for example, the Mega Drive, and, you know, that changed history in a lot of ways. And then the SNES, you look back, great libraries, and you think, didn't really notice what was going on there, but as you get older, you can see it. Whereas I'd argue with the Switch, you can see that this is going to be special at some point. In fact, I would argue it's special already. You know, it's in its own little niche. It does its own little thing. It's already great. And with time, it's just going to get greater. Anyway, guys, that's just my thoughts. You might totally disagree, but let me know down below. And until next time, take care, stay safe. Nerdy Geezer out.